Yo, what up? This is D Knight, and you're listening to the Pardon the Insurrection podcast. My oh my, we've had so much going on. For starters, in case you missed it, we've got a new addition to the Pardon Pie family, Tara Dublin. Make sure you go follow her on Twitter at Tara Dublin Rocks. Also, pick up a copy of her book while you're at it. Make her day, The Sound of Settling. A very fun and interesting read compared to the things we talk about on this podcast. But yeah, we're heading toward the do or die time for the 2024 election. Go ahead and hit up joebiden.com. Get that man like $1 a month or something. Help his campaign staff up and get prepared to try and save our democracy. And make sure to grab like one other person you know and tell them about the podcast. Make sure they subscribe and tune in every single week. We got a lot of things coming up for you this year. We need all the support that we can get. So if you do your part and help us grow our audience, we'll do our part and help elect Joe Biden in 2024 and save American democracy. And this is the Pardon the Insurrection podcast. Hey, this is D Knight.
This is Carol.
This is Ty.
And you're listening to the Pardon the Insurrection podcast. All right. So we move on from the House to, even though the House tangentially revolves Florida man Matt Gaetz, who is the reason why in a time of international conflict, we don't have a Speaker of the House. We moved down to Florida here. So in a filing the other day relating to a Garcia hearing, which is about conflicts of interest between a couple of Trump's co-conspirators and their representation by counsel who appears to be in a position to, long story short, one of the witnesses flipped. He was representing the other witness that the other co-conspirator that the witness flipped against. And DOJ was like, hey man, we got to talk about this shit. Like, we might have to get dude up out of the paint. Well, in one of the filings in response to Judge Cannon, and I thought this was fairly revelatory because in no other court filing has this appeared. Jack Smith says that he will be able to prove exactly why Trump stole the classified documents that he was concealing from law enforcement and FBI. Now, I don't know the fucking answer to that. Like, obviously, if you had to bet money on it, I would just say that Trump thought these documents could bring him some financial compensation. I don't know.
Or some sort of political leverage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Iran ones too. Like, there was, and that always stuck in my head. So I'm wondering how that plays into him giving the information. Ow, my elbow. I think I cracked like when I hit my funny bone, I think it shattered a little bit. Because it feels like there's little pieces of bone that are sticking in my elbow. Oh my God, it hurts like hell.
All right, Ty, so no one listening to this knows what the fuck it is you're talking about. Would you like to explain to them how you even failed in the first place?
Oh, no. This happened actually a couple of months ago. I hit my funny bone, but I hit it like hard. And then every time I was trying to put my elbow down, like on the armrest in the car, it was hurting and I could kind of feel like some shift of movement. So I was like kind of feeling my other elbow and I'm like, fuck. And then it was like weeks and it wasn't going away. And then it seemed like it finally did, but now again, and I'm talking like scream out loud, painful, especially if it's a little shard of bone.
We need to get you some Obamacare so you can get an x-ray.
Can't afford Obamacare.
God damn it. See, well, all right, kids, if you're listening, this is some motivation for you to turn out to vote in 2024. Try and, save the Senate, win the House, and
demand universal health care
for my elbow.
Yeah, and reelect Biden. And reelect Biden so we can expand Obamacare.
Yeah, we shouldn't have our health insurance tied to employment. It's bullshit.
Yes, total bullshit. Todd needs a new elbow.
Everyone is worthy of medical care.
Exactly.
Yes.
Garbage. Yes.
And Texas is trash when it comes to their social services. They're nothing like New Mexico. New Mexico has expanded Medicaid. New Mexico, it's like up to $50,000 a year you qualify for Medicaid in New Mexico.
Yeah, Todd was having such a hard time because you all listening won't get enough of your friends to subscribe to the podcast. She had to move to fucking Texas. See what you've done? You should be ashamed of yourselves. Tell your friends about Pardon the Insurrection. Make sure they subscribe and listen every week.
So so I can get my elbow checked out.
Yeah. So you can move back to New Mexico.
No, I was reading something and I know where they were getting it. It took me a minute to get it though, but it made me chuckle. And they're like, instead of everybody setting up a GoFundMe when they need medical attention or, something happens, he goes, what if we just had one big pot that everyone puts money into, and then we all could have medical care when we needed it. I thought that was a cute way to put it.
That is so good. Yeah. I mean,
really, right? It was on because yesterday, since I couldn't get into the Twitter, I spent all day on Threads, and I realized how much I really like Threads. And there was one thread on Threads that was so good. And I just I went through the whole thing. It was so many comments. And every single one of them, I have said something like that at one point in time when it comes to how, dealing with the trolls on Twitter. But it was somebody saying how the maggots are and the trolls are upset because on Threads, nobody interacts with them. They either block them or just ignore them. And
yeah, well, that's because Zuckerberg, as much of a piece of shit as he is, didn't incentivize these fucking morons by giving them the ability to pay $8 and then show up at the top of the fucking replies of everything. So yeah, that's probably one thing that's saving Threads. I mean, also Threads is just people didn't show up there for that. They showed up there to get away from this shit. And yeah, the engagement with the nonsense is lower over there. It's also better on Spoutable, but I mean, that doesn't quite have the same built-in audience because with Threads, if you had an IG account, you just boom, there you are, you're on Threads. Anyway. Yeah, I know what you're saying. So on to more insanity, Bob Menendez, the senator from, is he from Vermont?
Pennsylvania?
No, Pennsylvania. No, yeah, I don't know why I said Vermont.
I wasn't sure if it was New Jersey or Pennsylvania.
Right. New Jersey.
Okay, let me get it together. I've had quite a day.
That's New Jersey. Yes, I'm sorry.
He's definitely the senator from New Jersey. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I had a brain fart. So he was previously indicted for bribery and basically bribes and using his position as a senator to enrich some others. He was re-indicted for being a fucking foreign agent, which is not great. Hopefully his ass goes to prison. No one on the Democratic side of the aisle is defending him. One of his staunchest supporters, since his indictment is actually, in fact, George Santos, which says a lot because guess who also got re-indicted last week? Re-indicted and it feels so good.
What's her name?
Huh?
What's her name?
Oh, was it Katara Vache? Yeah, Katara got re-indicted last week. So the treasurer for his campaign was indicted over a week and a half ago. I think pled guilty and was cooperating with federal investigators, which of course led to a re-indictment, superseding indictment of George Santos. Got hit with a number of charges. I talked about this the other day on the podcast. You can go back to that if you want a little bit more information. I mean, it's insane that one of the reasons why Steve Scalise, after being presented as a GOP nominee last week, stepped down is because Santos publicly torched him for not getting in contact with Santos in a reasonable fashion and was basically I'm never Scalise. And of course the crazies in the GOP caucus sided with Santos, and that's what led to Scalise not having the votes. And here we are with Jim Jordan.
No, that's not the only reason.
I mean, it's a reason.
He's like David Duke without the baggage, but they want more baggage.
Well, yeah, clearly, they want David Duke.
Could you be an even worse David Duke?
Yeah, can you put the robes on, please? Yeah, David, no baggage is not good enough for them. That's clearly why they've run with, sexual assault, ignoring Jim Jordan here. That's going to become look. I hope they pick the worst possible person to be the Speaker of the House, as possible, just because we can use that as an opportunity to paint the whole party is fucking criminal, racist, or in Jim Jordan's case, like
criminal, racist, child sex traffickers. You've got sexual abuse apologists. You witnessed the last time that the Republican Party has had a speaker that wasn't a shit show.
I don't have any answers for you on that. We might have to go back a long, long way. So, yeah, total disaster. I just wanted to contrast, Bob Menendez, who seems to be losing every last bit of power and influence in the Democratic Party, as George Santos is becoming the linchpin vote in the House for Speaker. That's just absolutely fucking bonkers.
We're all like, you should resign because you're corrupt and immoral. And they're like, yeah, I'm corrupt and immoral.
All right. Beyond that, we had Mike Lindell. So apparently he's broke and his lawyers have bailed on him. They've moved to withdraw from the case.
I can tell you something about lawyers. They like to get paid.
Yeah, money's important.
Everyone likes to get paid.
That is true. Even myself.
Even Ty.
I mean, even if we're not making a profit, we like having our expenses covered. And I'm sure Mike Lindell's lawyers feel the same way.
Yes.
Yeah. Mike Lindell made a public statement about how he basically ran out of money. He spent, tens of millions of dollars investigating the 2020 election and on legal fees and such. And his ass is broke. So congratulations to all of you people out there who have been buying pillows from Sheets and Giggles and putting Maya Lindell out of business. I love y'all. Y'all the best.
Did you call him Maya Lindell?
Mike.
I heard.
As for another right-wing nut job who's apparently going broke and can't afford to pay his legal bills, Rudy Giuliani apparently can't afford his lawyers. He is millions of dollars behind, and his lawyers are probably looking.
That fool couldn't afford Basil Hayden right now. So,
yeah. Hey, Basil Hayden is the shit. He probably can't afford what's cheaper than. What's the cheapest
he
possible
can do
whiskey?
Some Seagram 7 or some Canadian Club.
Ooh.
Or the Canadian Miss.
No Canadian Miss. We don't do that around these parts. But yeah, so Giuliani can't pay his legal fees. So in the Ruby Freeman case, Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss case in Georgia, the civil case, apparently the judge has ruled that the jury can take an adverse inference from the fact that he appears to be hiding his financial statements from the court. He's going to get hammered down there. The jury can just make up a number in damages since he won't do anything to inform them of how much money he's actually making and how much he's worth. He's also, I think I covered this as well last week. He's also $500,000 behind in his taxes. So the IRS has placed a lien on his house.
He's so dumb.
That's so sad.
Oh man, poor guy ran through tens of millions of dollars and now he's broke. And even Trump fundraisers for Rudy Giuliani's legal fees aren't panning out and he can't pay his lawyers. And, Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss are about to take every single dollar. So, shout out to the black ladies making Rudy Giuliani homeless. We appreciate your service. Well, it's actually not his home. It's his property down in Florida. I think it's like a few miles away from Mar-a-Lago. He probably paid too much money for it anyway, because Trump told him to. Who knows?
That's a whole other crime.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's fucked. There's also news that a special purpose acquisition company that was supposed to do a deal with True Social where they were to take the funds that were invested into the SPAC and make a purchase of True Social to take it public. They appear to have returned all of their funds that were invested back to investors, which is close to $1 billion. Yep. So that means that deal is dead. True Social will not be going public, at least not through this means anyway. And, considering the SPAC was under investigation, as well as True Social being under criminal investigation, I don't see the possibility of True Social going public anytime soon, if ever. And given that it only has like a couple million users, and I don't know the finances of this thing, but I assume that like it's running on fumes and it absolutely needed this merger with the SPAC company to make any profit whatsoever. It's probably going to die. Are
you still talking about Truth Social? What are you talking about?
Yep, True Social. Okay. Yeah, the SPAC is dead. That $1 billion investment is poof. It's gone. That money's back in the hands of investors themselves. So yeah, there goes a huge chunk of Trump's potential net worth out the window.
Well, maybe they will do what the judge wasn't able to do. Finally shut him the fuck up, because they'll be deceased the business. That's nice.
Well, he still has his Twitter account thanks to Elon. Yeah. So he might, just be wary. Like if this thing shuts down, he'll be back in 2024. Although I do have a note on the potential longevity of Twitter, in case you were wondering. So it appears as though the banks behind the financing of the loans for Elon to make the purchase of Twitter, so they had an agreement. I think is it called a, Carol, how much do you know about financial acquisitions? I think they have like a sell down agreement.
That sounds fun.
Does it? So
I've heard of buy down agreements, so why wouldn't there be sell down agreements?
Yeah, it's basically an agreement between the banks and these particular banks. I think they were responsible for up to 75% of the financing, something like that. They have an agreement where they can't, without the permission of the others, the prior approval, like sell major portions of their debt at a loss. Right. So you could think about it like, so say you put $1 million in on this Twitter deal. You're like, oh, damn, Elon is tanking this shit. I'll try to get out of the loss. Maybe I won't get my $1 million back, but as opposed to getting absolutely nothing back, I'll sell my debt at like half the value and I'll get 500,000 in cash. Right. So you maybe look at it as like, some other investor or some other lender looking at it as an opportunity to buy low on the potential that Elon can turn this thing into something that's profitable.
Good description. Now I understand.
Yeah. So say one bank is like, all right, I'm cashing out, I'm losing out on this mill, but I'm getting my 500K back. Well, that would cause like a run by the other lending institutions to try and sell out their debt. And, it would basically cause a run on, on all of the Twitter debt, thereby collapsing the value of Twitter in its entirety. Because, if one person sells, everyone tries to sell. Yeah. So there's this huge supply. There's no demand. It would completely tank the value of Twitter. It would collapse and go broke, unless there's the possibility of, Elon buying the debt outright. So they have an agreement where they can't do that until January of 2024. There's this possibility that unless Elon turns things around over the course of the next 4 or 5 months, that once that agreement expires, yes, it'll be a race to the bottom to get out from under this debt, which could totally tank Twitter.
Well,
so yeah, just something to keep in mind, in case you're hanging around on that doomed website like we are, that it could disappear in a couple of months, and you might want to make some preparations.
I think I would rather for Twitter to completely fold as an entity than to be around for 2024. There's just misinformation, and it's so harmful. I think we do better spreading to other platforms than to have this platform around when things get really, really like down to the wire.
You might get your wish, Ty.
I would rather they go broke. Like I would rather see them, and then to be able to spread the kind of misinformation. like I said. And then I forgot, somebody was looking and they were like, there was some news on Threads, and then they were trying to find it on Twitter and couldn't find it. And then Seth did a really, really good, Abramson, he did a really, really good thread on Elon and his destruction of Twitter. And he just pretty much believes it was all about destroying citizen journalism and destroying the journalists that were on Twitter.
Yeah, this will be a 14-hour long podcast if we go into everything fucking wrong that Elon's done. But yeah, I think when he figured out that he could just like flip a switch and turn everyone into a Republican, then he's like, well, damn, I guess I'll just burn it down. At least it won't be like useful to people like us.
Yes.
Yeah.
He could have just sat and had a happy life with his billions of dollars.
And hobnobbed with celebrities and stuff, but you know, he had to, and he could have bought the platform. Let someone.
Was cool? Dr. Evil. We'll see. What do you think he's doing?
Yeah, Ty. I mean, it's really difficult to say, hey, this sociopath could have just done something totally normal.
Yes.
Right. Like that's what you're saying. Like it just antithetical to anyway. I mean, he's very Trumpian in that manner, right?
A lot of the most successful sociopaths typically are very good at pretending to be normal.
Yeah.
Well, Seth mentioned that he just seems so pathetic in trying to maintain these like social media relationships with his incel fanboys. And it's just quite pathetic to watch this grown-ass man like basically pander to these children. And it's just so weird. And it's like, dude, if you had just taken it over, installed somebody with a brain or not ran off Yoel and all the other people, it would have been fine.
Yeah. I mean, he would have had to fire a lot of people to like, you know, slow down the run rate, because I'm sure he's taking absurd losses as it is, and you know, paying all those employees probably would have been tough. But yeah, he could have appointed the same person to run the place, and he might have been taking a loss, but he would have still kept all that advertising revenue to keep him afloat for years and years. Now the thing could potentially be over with come, you know, or spring next year. Anyway, you know, apart from that, Twitter could potentially flounder. True Social, their $1 billion deal is dead, but Biden's social media team created an account on True Social anyway.
That was awesome.
It was fucking amazing.
A+ trolling. I love it.
Yeah, so they were posting, I mean, they were doing things like posting videos from the debate where Nikki Haley and people were like trashing Trump and saying he wasn't doing a good job. And it's like, that's pretty fucking, it's one thing to sign up on True Social. It's like a legit attempt to reach like your right leaning base on there or something. That's one thing, but they were like, no, we got like a totally different plan here. Straight up trolling. And I respect that.
Yep, that's going to be interesting. And it's going to drive Trump over the edge of flat earth. He's going to lose his fucking mind. and it's going to be juxtaposed against Dark Brandon looking calm. And it's just going to make him seem like he's going to be pretty much reduced to what he was at the correspondence dinner when Obama roasted his ass. Or he couldn't really have a comeback. That's where he's going to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think people forget that, like, you remember, 2000, was it 2007? No, it was 2008, where Rudy Giuliani was like the leading candidate to win the Republican nomination. You know who killed his political career? It was Joe Biden.
Was it?
Yeah, you don't remember that famous quote about, it might be the best thing he's ever said. He was talking about Rudy Giuliani, and he was like, all Rudy Giuliani has is a noun, a verb, and 9/11, and poof, like his prospects were toast. Like he
That's funny.
Oh yeah, it was so great. It was the best line ever, and it like immediately tanked his chances. Like he totally, I mean, I guess, you know, maybe President Giuliani would be better than Trump. I mean, I don't know that for sure. I mean, both pussy grabbing dipshits from what I can tell. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So Biden's got it in him to do a little trolling, and so does his social media team. Apparently, they do good work. And of course, we have the most important development over the course of last week. Nancy Mace in her scarlet letter, in her attempt to cast a secret vote for their nominee for House Speaker, as well as Harriet Hagman and that lasso that she was carrying around the Capitol building for some fucking reason.
These people are strange. Very strange people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very weird.
Like, what the hell was Nancy Mace trying to accomplish except like, oh, now I know that she's got a great rack. Nice.
No, I think, I think she was,
this scarlet letter was for her vote. Like, oh, I'll be ostracized. Like, what does she think she's being ostracized for?
Yeah, I think she's
too
saying,
dumb to know.
Yeah, well, that's totally fair and true. She was saying something about, I don't know, she was being mistreated and being ostracized for her vote for speaker or something.
Or just because, she's been, even before the speaker thing, because at first she was like, oh, I couldn't keep Kevin McCarthy because he went back on the helping women victims of domestic, she's admitted that she was raped. But it's like, but then you turn around and you support a guy who ignored, so she was getting dragged. So then
I think from her point of view, she's like, well, I'm anti-women getting raped, but if men get sexually abused, that's different. So she's like still pro-woman in her mind.
I guess. I don't know what the fuck is going on. But
no, I'm not saying that makes sense. It's very much insane, but I'm just like explaining to you what her rationalization might be. I don't know. Just, but yeah, she's crazy.
I don't know if she has one, except for the fact that they're about to add them 30,000 black folks they took out of her district back. And so
I'm excited.
She's been running around on all these TV shows trying to seem like she's a rational person and they should vote for her. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's also there's this video on YouTube of Nancy Mace involved in a drinking game where she
oh God, that was so gross.
Where she takes a shot, but she doesn't swallow it. Like she turns to the person beside her and they open their mouth and then she snowballs it into their mouth.
Yeah.
And then they
then they seem to get grosser looking as it went. It wasn't like there's a bunch of hot people.
Yeah, so they they just passed the shot around from one person's mouth to the other, and it's
white people is nasty.
Carol, you're not white, you're Jewish, okay? For the purposes of this conversation.
Carol is not,
and for most of our racial and ethnic conversations.
Look, that's something that my grandma would say. Like an old black lady back in the day. Ooh, them folks is nasty.
Yeah, and then wait, how many mouths does the shot make it before the person vomits? Anyway, yeah, check that out on YouTube.
Never mind, I don't want to know.
Nightmares.
Yeah. Sorry, wait, yeah, I'm ending the way to end the podcast on a high note, D, right? Yeah. All right, closing thoughts time, kids. Who wants to go first?
We need to go ahead, Carol.
You can.
Yeah, let's let you go first, Ty. You volunteered.
No, I've just was saying that I really need us. I'm so tired of, if you're for this, then I have to be against. Two things can be the same at once. And it is possible, or at least it used to be, to put our differences aside. I don't understand how people can't seem to separate Netanyahu from the Israeli people, how they can't seem to separate Hamas from the Palestinian people, half of which are children, and watching like what Trump's saying that all Palestinians should be banned from going to universities in the United States. And, what's his name? DeSantis saying that, all Palestinians should be banned because they're all anti-Semitic. I have friends that are Palestinian Jews, so that's not true. And them trying to fearmonger people here on my border where I live, militarizing my border, that all of a sudden the migrants coming over seeking asylum have just poof and switched from Venezuelan to Palestinian and Iranian, like overnight. And they're gonna plot and do, it's like fucking 2001 all over again. It's a damn post 9/11 fear mongering. And I feel like Trump is literally running the exact same campaign he did in 2016, and it's working. He ran on building a wall and banning Muslims. That was it. And that's pretty much right where we're back to.
He was also going to put Hillary Clinton in jail.
Oh, yes, he was. I think he still wants to do that.
I'm also 100% sure there are like no members of Hamas coming across our southern border. Like they just hopped on a plane to Mexico after these. Yeah, that was insane. Carol, closing thoughts, go.
So this has been a really hard week or week and a half for me. Just human in general, a mother, and as a Jew. It's hard, just so much cognitive and emotional dissonance. As you have both said, like, yes, of course I can separate Netanyahu from the Israeli people. And Hamas from Palestine. My heart hurts for all the civilians who are just trying to live their lives. And then they have to they just have to deal with literal death and destruction and uncertainty and fear all the time. Mostly, I'm going to say it's mostly on the Gaza side because they live in an open air prison. But it just breaks my heart on all sides. And then to have to, I know people are trying to point fingers, and it's almost feels better to have someone to blame on one side, but it's like always, it's the people on top, the masters, the rulers, like fucking everyone else over.
Yep.
The cognitive dissonance comes in because in the American side of things, the only people who seem to be defending Israel are Maga. So I'm like, does anyone support Jews? Like it's a hard feeling. Like I get why Israel would be viewed unfavorably now, but it's hard coming from that and knowing your people have been historically, just slaughtered. And and then the only people I think are like taking up our cause are like, I think that they're completely disingenuous. And I'm like, I don't know if it could take support from anywhere, because they are these, it seems like these are the people who would be tossing me into a concentration camp, these Trump supporters, but they just want to use it as they have here's the motivations I see. One is an anti-Islamic fear-mongering tactic, and they're just like, hey, Jews, be on our side. We hate Muslims too. I'm like, wait, no, I don't want that in my, that's not what I said. Fuck off. Exactly. And then you have their other thing. They just want to bring on the end times. I don't know. I've been having just nonstop thoughts, every angle of this. If I wasn't well medicated, I would be having a constant panic attack right now. It's been a tough week. I wish people could just tap into compassion. It's easy for me to say from the safety of, being on the opposite side of the world of the conflict in my home with my family and my security. But it just sucks. I've always thought this about this particular conflict. It's just like a hole that hate dug that you just can't get out of. And I don't know where to go from there, but it's fucking dark. And I hope, I don't know if there's enough love in the world to bring us out of the All the damage that hate can do. And lastly, rise up and kill your ruling class. Great. That can go for anyone. That's not specifically for anyone in general. All right.
Okay. Well, that's one way to end your closing thoughts there, Carol.
That's the only solution that would work.
Yeah, I mean, I wish there were a solution that didn't involve killing
anyone.
That would be awesome.
Play the masters. That's what Daenerys said. She ended up being. Anyway, hopefully our world isn't too similar to Game of Thrones that I need to use any analogies from there.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, like Charlie Kirk is trying to use Israel as a distraction from Ukraine, saying that Biden is trying to get us in a forever war with Ukraine while this conflict between Israel and Palestine is easily solvable. Clearly having no historical context for
this is a brand new conflict. Yes.
It's obviously something that hasn't been going on in the region for thousands of years.
It's been going on as far back as last Friday, 2 Fridays ago.
All right, I'm going to give you some good news for my closing thoughts, just some perspective. I know we're all worried that Trump might eventually regain power in 2024, should he win the election. And I'm going to tell you why there's absolutely no way whatsoever, if things continue at this rate, that Trump can fairly win the 2024 election. Of course, there's always the possibility that Republicans find some way to fucking steal the thing by rigging the shit or cheating or, there's no way that they can legitimately win in 2024. I'll tell you why. And it's actually fairly obvious once you stop and think about it. It's right in front of everyone's faces. So in 2020, when Trump lost, what were the defining reasons why he lost, even though he was incumbent? He was in the strongest position he could possibly be in, and still managed to come away with an L. Well, obviously, the handling of COVID was poor and the economy wasn't doing great. But also, the specific reasons why he lost in the handful of states that matter, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, all that good stuff. Well, you look at why he lost, and well, those things have continued to carry on and carry over into 2024, right? He's even less popular in those states than he was in 2020. But not only that, Republicans in those state houses have all lost, and as well as those states having now Democratic governors, which means there aren't any Republicans in any positions to overturn the vote if he loses, or to help throw out votes in advance of the 2024 election.
Wait, did Brian Kemp die? Sorry.
Well, I mean, of course he won in Georgia, but I'm talking, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, all that good stuff. And
I thought maybe you hid some good news. You're bearing in the lead.
No. I mean, obviously Georgia is a concern, but he needs more than just Georgia. And given that he was an incumbent and lost, he's already lost these states that he's going to need to win in 2024, except there's one major problem. Come 2024, Trump's going to be on trial, as well as a number of fake electors in various states who attempted to overturn the 2020 election. And that shit is going to be broadcast all over TV for months as a never-ending campaign ad for President Biden for why you should not vote for Donald Trump. And if, all the things we talk about, like the racism, xenophobia, the fucking unending grifting, the idiocy, while people care about that, people are willing to swallow that shit and cast their vote for Trump. The one thing they're not going to be willing to do is watch all these trials of the attempt to overturn the 2020 election and cast a vote for a guy who tried to steal their vote. That is the one thing people will refuse to allow, and they're going to have that broadcast in their face by news outlets for months on end, months before the 2024 election rather. And there's just nothing more that people hate than having their vote stolen from them. Trump's looking at worst, Trump's looking at potentially going to jail, but at best, he's looking at maybe skating on jail, watching a bunch of other people go to jail for attempting to overturn the 2020 election. And the public at large, watching this play out in real time, showing up, turning out to vote 2024 to be like, nah, bro, we ain't gonna let this shit happen. It's over. It's a wrap. It's already in the bag. All you got to do is make sure that your punk ass turns out to vote and you bring everyone that you can with you. That concludes this episode of Pardon the Insurrection.